final countdown. We are coming to you live from Villain Radio Studios in Highland, Indiana. The ghost of Herman Cain. Yeah, I guess you could say he struck again. Um, I'm Rob Villain. We're here with Rich and,
Yo.
and Eddie. We will be bringing them in a second. Um, get this video for you guys real quick. There we go. I'm Rob Villain. This is White Devils Podcast. As I said, tonight's episode is called The Final Countdown. We are a week away from the 2020 general election, which hopefully will see the demise of Donald Trump's administration for good. As always, I am here with my esteemed co-host Rich. We'll be bringing him here in one moment. Hey, yay. We're here. We are joined by our new co-host. This is the third week here. It's kind of accidental, but I'm glad he's here now. Eddie.
FT Dubs.
How's it going, everyone? So let me ask a quick question. Maybe I didn't get this. So it's White Devils?
Yeah, White Devils.
Plural, or the White Devils, like possessive podcast?
Plural.
Yeah.
So like
there's two of us.
Right. So Rich and Rob are equally the White Devil.
Yeah, basically.
And now you're kind of the White Devil too, even though you're not white.
The name of the podcast was basically Brown kind of like forced it upon us.
Well, also my last album was named White Devil.
Oh, was it?
From my rap career.
Okay.
So it was kind of a spawn off of that.
Okay.
And then we just figured for shock value and because fuck people.
Yeah, fuck people.
Yeah.
Let's get them inflamed a little bit, so we ran with it.
Yeah, we.
Sure.
But the plan is we will eventually change the name, because like I said, the basis of the show is the first season. We're basically gonna go like 12-week seasons. We'll do 12-week seasons. We take a week off before we come into the next season, and the first season is us getting everything polished and informing everybody on the political landscape leading up to the election.
Right.
And once we got everything polished to where we're happy with it, then everything will be we'll still do it live like we are now, but the next day you'll be able to go and watch them all the archive on the Villain Radio Network Amazon Prime channel.
Right. And so I think that makes sense too. We're basically at election cycle right now. I think the end of season 1 will basically be the inauguration, whichever way it goes.
The end of season 1 is next week with a cliffhanger.
The end of season 1 is just Donald Trump sitting in the White House with a Big Mac in his iPhone next to the nuclear button.
Oh my God!
And he has to pick which 3 he wants.
I'm gonna do it. But like I said, the name of this episode is The Final Countdown, as we are in the last week. I wanted to play that, but we'll fucking get flagged or some shit. Facebook
sucks, off. Man. Come on, Zuck. Let us spin some records in this bitch. Jesus.
Yep. They don't want to pay royalties for it.
They want to whack us with a copyright infringement.
Yeah,
shut up.
Kick us off. Suspend our going live privileges. I know somebody shout out to Keisha Cautious. She does Ear Hustling Radio, and she got banned from going live. And she wasn't even playing anything that they could flag. She's playing stuff that local artists are sending in and giving her permission to play.
They just preemptively.
Let me tell you, Mark Zuckerberg, right now, there's nothing original about our content at all. You can flag all of this as, an Alex Jones knockoff if you want, but we don't have much to go on here as far as originality.
Damn, bro, I thought we were friends. You were calling me out and shit.
We are here, and we're getting down to the wire. We got a lot of things to go through today. Well, really not really a lot of things, but things that we want to get into depth about, especially the polling and voting related cases and shit like that, which there has been quite a few, and they're actually Supreme Court just handed out another decision, the second decision in the same case, basically. But we will get into that a little bit later. What were we going to start off with, guys?
I believe we're going to start with Philadelphia.
Oh, Philly. Okay. As you guys, you guys may not have known. I don't know how newsworthy you guys are. Our loyal viewers out there. Who was the Trump train guy? What up, Trump train guy? Shout out to you. And so
#1 fan.
yeah, evidently he really misses you, Rich. He misses being a part of your life so much that he has changed. He has a page dedicated to Trump to comment on your podcast.
Just to come to my podcast,
Yeah.
man. I'm honored, flattered even.
There was another police shooting this week. What was it? 2 days ago? 3 days ago?
3 days ago, I think.
In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Go ahead and lead off with that, Rich.
All right. Was it Eddie? His name was Walter Wallace.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
I keep tweaking on that. I don't know why. Walter Wallace Jr.
Because you're thinking of Braveheart, William
man,
Wallace.
man.
No, you're thinking of
executed by the English. No, Walter Wallace Jr. was a mentally ill man who was having a very bad fucking day. The cops had been called on him twice already, many times leading up to that. He clearly was having some issues. Finally, the police or his mom or someone in the family called again for an ambulance to get him out of there, give him some help. And the cops showed up, and he started flashing a knife. And from what I saw in the video, it looks like he does dive at the cops, and they smoked him. They lit him up. I want to say 8 bullets, I think. I don't know. It's I hate these situations. They keep coming. You know. So this is one of these situations where it's hard for me to fault the police. It is. Like, they got a right to come home too. As much as we all like to bash the cops, I know it's fun, and some people don't deserve it.
I think that a lot of people. I think it's frustrating for people on the left to who are anti-cop or interested in reforming the police. You don't lose your right to, like you said, to come home to your family just because you choose to be a police officer. But I think that also, on the right, there's a hero worship of police officers and first responders. And, these are tough jobs. These are very tough jobs. And for that reason, we should have highly qualified, highly skilled people for the job. But I think it's frustrating to believe that there's no middle ground between, rolling up and blasting somebody 8 times when you know that they have mental illnesses and you've been there a couple of times earlier in the day because of the same issue, versus also the cop being in a very tough position where, as you said, I mean, he's a couple feet away from being stabbed himself.
But it's like I said too, before we came on air, like, the cop legally wrong? No, probably not, unless some kind of new info comes out. But you can't accept this as the best possible outcome. That's kind of where I really get it. Like, there just has to be a better way to do this than leave with this man dead.
Yeah, another example is that guy who kidnapped the UPS driver, and the cops blew up literally shot 100 bullets or whatever it was, 50 bullets, and killed the UPS driver.
Yeah. I
mean, you're on a crowded highway, rush hour traffic, stalled, and this guy's got a gun to somebody else's head, literally. Yeah. What's the right solution here?
Well, this is where it comes back to, I know everybody, I hate the term too, defund the police. It's a stupid term. But the principle,
take away the money from the police that they don't need.
The principle behind it, is reinvesting into other things to take some of the pressure off of the police's back. Let's get social workers in there. Let's get therapists. Let's get them additional training. Or,
I think that one thing that we have to understand
to give them more money, which is absolutely bizarre. But if it takes more money to do their job right, then I would entertain that.
Yeah, but where's that money going to? Is it going toward, like, for example, the city of Los Angeles is trying to roll out the capability to being able to monitor protests from the air, and they think that it gives them a tactical advantage versus the First Amendment right to free speech. Right, you should be able to go to a protest anonymously, in my opinion. But yeah, I think we have to come back to this point that most people, when they encounter a police officer in the professional capacity, it's pretty much going to be one of the worst days of their life, right? Like somebody tried to hurt you, somebody robbed you, you had a car crash. Like these encounters with police officers are never, easygoing, stress-free. You don't call the police. Most people don't call the police just because they're bored, right? There's crises that are require intervention in some capacity, and it doesn't have to be a big crisis. It could be something small, like my neighbor who's playing music every Saturday for 12 hours at 120 decibels, literally every week, right? Like, I don't need to call the cops on them. I need to talk to the alderman, have somebody come around and be like, yo, we don't mind you having a party. It's your house. But like every weekend in the middle of COVID and you guys are blasting your music, like, we had the cops come a few weeks ago, and the cop comes and he turns his lights on, and everyone goes into their house and just leaves the music blasting and continues to party indoors. And my dad was like, hey, what's up? Like, these people, they're still partying, the music's still going. And the guy was like, well, I did my part. Like, I did my best, and they just didn't want to listen. What do you want me to do about it? And it's like, why are you asking the person who called for help what they want them to do, what you want them to do about it as a police officer? Your job is to get the music turned down, go knock on the door and say, hey, excuse me, turn it down. Yeah. You guys know I'm here, right? Like, we don't need to pay somebody $75,000 a year to manage the relationship between our neighbors so that they need to understand to turn the music down at 10 o'clock, right? And so that's a very simple thing. And so when you, like you said, when you build wraparound services, as they call them, where we have, trained medical professionals, people who understand we had a database of, not that I'm interested in making databases of the mentally ill, but if we had a database where we could Google somebody, an address, and know that it's a known, domestic violence situation or a known mental health issue, then yeah, let's not just go in guns a-blazing, literally. I think that that's a fair first step. I work in the IT industry, and I do a lot of like remediation, deep level remediation of getting systems fixed in a way, right? Solving the problem long term, not just short term fix. And the first step in this process is the detection, right? You have to detect 30 servers that fail every 2 weeks for no reason, causing a big impact to the business, right? And once you have your data, then you look at the data and say, okay, what system is causing the most loss in business? Who is helping me the most? Which team do I need to give them a raise or congratulations? And who's hurting me? Who is constantly dropping the ball on maintenance notifications, things like that. Right. The point being, we know who these so-called quote unquote bad apples are, right? Eddie Johnson being one of them, from the Chicago Police Department. I don't know if you guys saw, he got arrested recently. I did see. But the idea that this question of policing or improving the system of policing is exists in a vacuum that has never been solved before, or that no one has ever thought about before, I think is also counterintuitive. I think that people are stuck in the, well, what can we do phase, and instead of trying to improve the system, they retreat to the ideological corner of, well, you should have not resisted, versus the cops shouldn't be using force in the first place. And I think part of that is the politicized nature of our discourse, right? That because everyone's so worked up, nobody is able to calm the temperature down.
Well,
Today,
right-wing media makes the unrest to be the problem when it's really the result of the problem. It is a problem in and of itself, but it's not the root problem. They don't want to address why people are mad. They just want them to stop being mad.
The police officers also have a escalation of force protocol that they're supposed to follow, and they usually just jump over the first
Right.
2 or 3 things.
Right. And so this goes back to Rich's point. Just because they follow protocol and, you know, only broke the guy's leg instead of killing him. I'm thinking about the Sterling Brown in Milwaukee. But okay, so you only broke the guy's leg, no big deal. We'll settle a $25,000 lawsuit down the road. That just because nobody's dead does not mean that was the best possible outcome.
Right. But you know what though? Like, I don't really talk much about the police unless somebody's dead. You get beat up by the cops, that's just a bad day, man. That happens sometimes. Like, I know that's not a popular opinion, but unless you're in a coma or you're permanently damaged, like they fucked you up, but they're killing people, and it's just like, man, does it have to? Do we have to go there? Like, I wonder how many of these lives could have been saved if there's been better training, better equipment, better protocols, and then you get these mentally ill cases, and it makes it even messier, and it's very, very aggravating. So I mean, we'll see where this one ends up.
And I think I mentioned this before the cast started. That I think is a very obvious point that I don't think people make on a regular basis, but there is nothing inherent about mental illness in America that makes these manic episodes or you know, schizophrenic episodes or whatever it is more dangerous to American police officers than, say, British police officers or Japanese police officers. The issue is the response and how, like, like Joe Biden has said this a bunch, that mental illness causes, you know, drug addiction, not the other way. Drug addiction doesn't cause mental illness, right?
And Joe Biden, by the way.
And so when you act in ways that support mental health services, you can intervene early and maybe get somebody on drugs, you know, the meds that they need 6 months, a year, 5 years earlier, so that they're never reached that level of manicness that would facilitate needing them to be shot because, you know, you showed up and they were waving a knife around and they were coming at you.
Right.
So preventative measures are not just useful from a public health perspective, but they prevent you from being in the situation from the first place.
Right. But by the way, before we move on, Joe Dirt, we have cameras outside. You are not on the pull-up. My location is always on. And not the fake ass locations you be giving me.
Yeah.
That's my homie, man. Producer from LA. But he's from here, but he lives in LA. So the Breonna Taylor grand jurors.
Yeah. Rich and I had made a promise back even in our pilot episode that we would keep the viewers up to date on the Breonna Taylor case.
Not about to fall by the wayside.
Yes. And the thing about it is, a lot of people have been like, "Oh, is that political or not?" It's all political. I mean, no matter what, it's all political. In some way, shape, or form, it comes back to the policy set forth by whatever politicians are in that area. So I've always stressed throughout this election cycle, a lot of people don't want to vote for the president. Their vote don't count, this and that, electoral college, this, that, whatever. Well, at least go vote on your local level. That's the only way we're going to be able to get all these old white people that have no idea what's going on in a normal person's life from crafting all the laws and policies that run our daily life, you know? So go vote for your fucking councilman, your fucking alderman, your fucking mayor, your governor, your senator, your congressman.
Your dog catcher. I mean,
Yeah, whatever. Your fucking school board, all that shit.
Mhm.
Right.
So here we're gonna get into the Breonna Taylor, the more and more. There's another grand juror that
2 grand jurors.
there's 2 now.
2 that
Yes.
came out in this interview. One, grand juror 1 and grand juror 2. They're still being not.
So and this is 2 more in addition to the one that's already started.
I don't know
talking.
if that's one of the 2.
Okay, so there's 2 grand jurors
At least 2.
that are speaking upon the session that they were a part
The
of.
grand jury testimony. Yeah.
So what did they have to say?
They said that one of these cops, or maybe both of them, should be charged with a homicide, or at least a manslaughter or attempted homicide.
Yeah, my main takeaway from the second.
And that when the AG, whatever his name is, that dude is Mitch McConnell's brother-in-law. Have I said that on air before?
Yes.
Oh
That's-
shit!
What a bag of shit. Family.
Oh,
Yeah.
that
And
makes a lot of sense.
But he came out and said that his office agreed with the grand jury, and that's when the grand jurors stepped forward to talk, because they didn't agree with shit. They weren't given a chance to even offer those indictments.
Yeah, he massaged that completely.
Yeah.
He basically came into the room and said, "These are the charges you can accept, and these are the charges that you can indict him on, and only these."
Now, mind you,
They went out and indicted him, and he said, "Well, the grand jury indicted him. They made the decision to indict him. Yeah, they made the decision to indict him on the charges that you recommended, and
Right.
refused to let them consider any other charges."
I didn't know that other ones were even available. He said they were, but they weren't told. So
Yeah,
And so this comes to the idea of prosecutorial discretion, right? You can hit somebody with 10 years, or you can hit somebody with 5 years. You can hit somebody with 5 years because you had a great lunch and you came back and you felt good, and you had a massage before you took lunch and you're just in a good mood and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna cut him a break. Or you can throw the book at him. And as prosecutor, you have to live with those decisions. Right, wrong, or medium.
it also shows
That's
a
just
bunch
what
of
you have to do.
between his office and the police.
Yep.
That they're all
But
wiping watching each other's backs and.
yeah, I would say that my biggest takeaway from the second grand juror coming out is just what you said, the reconfirmation of the fact that the AG really massaged that one completely. And to Rich's point, you're right. The prosecutors and the police and the judges all work together hand in hand. They are more on each other's side than they are on the sides of the person who they are trying to prosecute.
Well, and here's the kicker: even though they weren't offered the opportunity to do homicide or manslaughter, the grand juror said there is ample evidence to charge at least one of those, because they heard all the evidence. They just weren't offered the charging opportunity. So they heard all this shit, 20 plus hours of shit, and they said that there is enough evidence there for a murder indictment.
I believe so too. But
so to be continued, but yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, that's basically where we're at with it.
Eddie, you want to tell about Waukegan?
Oh yeah, so and I want to, but I don't have the kid's name on the top of my head.
I'll look it up.
But they're Waukegan, Illinois, which is a suburb of Illinois, Chicago.
Recently, very far north suburb.
Very South Wisconsin. They had an incident where a 17-year-old kid was shot. A black kid was shot and murdered by a police officer. I believe that the officer had a body camera, but he has been fired from his job already, and
was off.
been
It's reported
handed over to the Illinois Attorney General. The presumption is that the police officer fired at the car when he wasn't supposed to, violated department procedures, et cetera, and for that reason he lost his job, which is interesting, because we very rarely see police officers get indicted. The Laquan McDonald shooting in Chicago is one probably more recent examples where we've seen people get indicted for behavior as police officers. Although Eddie Johnson did just get indicted himself, which is hilarious. But I think that losing your job is not a strong enough disincentive for some police officers to disregard their procedures for their job and to kill somebody when they shouldn't have, when they are being directed by the people above them to not do these things. Like, don't put people in a chokehold. New York City had an anti-chokehold policy for 15 years, and that policy came into place because a police officer choked out and killed somebody else. And 15 years later, Eric Garner gets choked out, and we still see videos of police officers in New York during protests and stuff choking people out. So it's not, losing your job or even being indicted is not incentive enough for some police officers to
I think
follow procedures. And I think that's very concerning about what it says about policing. And honestly, and we've said this before, if you're a good cop, why do you stand for that? I mean, how can you, you know, you don't have to do this in front of, you know, the public, but you can't wait to go back to the station and say, hey, dude, what the hell was that? Why'd you shove that little kid when he was running to his mom to, because you were arresting her and he wanted to hug her? Like, we don't, apparently these conversations never happen.
Joe,
yes,
I see your question.
Yes,
you must have just missed what you're talking about defunding a little bit.
It is a viable solution because all the extra money the police get for basically the militarization of them, it could go back into the community funding that it was originally taken away from. Social programs, school programs, after school programs,
right?
You know, all these. Trump always wants to spout about how all these violent cities have Democratic mayors and they're in states with Democratic governors, but these states are also had the most federal funding slashed from their budgets, and that funding went directly into the stuff that I was just talking about, shit in the community. You know, when I was growing up, there was like 4 community centers in my city, and now there's one of those are still open. The other 3 aren't even there anymore.
Right. And I would say it's not okay. So we talk about funding, right? It's not, we're not saying like make 25,000 a year. Like, first of all, like, we can talk about Gary police being paid like 17,000 a year in like 2007 or whatever it was. So they're not being funded. Yeah. But the bigger takeaway, when you look at the impact on city budget for police, Chicago paid like $400 million in police misconduct lawsuits. Like,
and the thing is,
that's $1 billion. That's $500 million. That would do a lot of good for the community. So we're not saying take $500 million away from the Chicago Police Department budget, but what we are saying is that we're spending $400 million or $500 million on policing where we shouldn't, because of the fact that the money is coming from actions of police that are not supportable, and they know it's not supportable because they're paying it out in court, right? It's not just a he said, she said. The judiciary branch is making the decision that it is absolutely unconstitutional and an excessive use of force, and now the taxpayers, you and I and Rob and Rich and Joe and everyone else, are on the hook. Yeah. So yes, we can keep police budgets stable, or we can slap them, or we can increase them. The question is, what are we actually paying, and where?
I don't think we should keep increasing them because there's nothing coming from the increase. Look, people have this misconception about when we say defund the police, that means take all the money away and there's no more police. No, the police have a budget they submit, right? And it includes a bunch of shit that has nothing to do with.
There's some fat on that budget.
There's a lot of pork. There's a lot of pork, right? And they don't need militarized Humvees and shit like that. They also, nobody wants to defund the police, but you guys are okay with them defunding healthcare, defunding schools and educational programs and community programs, and everything's been defunded but the military and the police. Our military budget in this country is
I don't even know what it is. It's
exactly. You can't even
trillion or something. What is it?
Yeah, It's insane. Are there any studies that show more community centers and youth clubs directly correlate to less crime?
Sure.
Well, the number one way to drop crime is across all academia. There's complete consensus in the academic community is to fund schools, pre-K, community centers, yes, parks. Invest early in people's education, and crime drops. You have to wait 5-10 years.
And more activity is always better than less activity. The more things you can keep. Idle time is it idle hands or the devil's plaything?
And to back to Rob's point about the budgets, right? You look at how much overtime is being paid to police officers because, there's a surge, and we're surging, right? Chicago is constantly playing this game where they're changing their squads. We're going to do a gang task force, and now it's like, no, we're not doing gang task force. We're going to do a vice task force, and you have these people who are constantly being overtime, right? Making 100, 125, 150,000, working 16-hour days, which is not good for them either. That's not good. Sleeping 4 hours a day and patrolling a violent neighborhood for 16 hours.
Highly irritable, stressed out.
It's not good for you, and it's not good for the community. But, you look at these priorities and you wonder, like, what are you actually doing? There was a study that came out for 2007 to 2010. There was a anti-gang task force in the West Side. And what you looked and you saw what they were actually doing, ticketing people. They're getting paid overtime to ticket people. That is not a good use of the budget. And so when I say I'm not going to fund you for this, it's because I'm not funding this program.
Well, they have to do some shit like they have to do mass ticket things and shit like that because they have to show that more money in the budget is going to something. So they're bringing more money in through fines and tickets and shit like that. That they kind of make it seem like they're doing something extra, but why violent crime steadily goes up.
But I will also say, like I said earlier, if you want to make a case to increase the funding for the police, if you could show me, like, I would not just give them more money because I know they're going to find a way to fucking just take it all. But if you showed me where that was going to social workers, therapists, additional training, additional resources, we could have that discussion. I don't need to take a quarter of the police's budget. I'm just not sure the police are giving us $2 billion worth of policing. I think some of that money can be spent better elsewhere.
And honestly,
the cops are doing shit that they're not even supposed to be doing. They're putting on 8 hats, and they're not trained for none of it. They're trained to arrest people.
Yep.
Not even trained well at that.
But they're dealing with drug addicts and fucking mentally ill people and all these weird situations where, at the very least, somebody who's better trained for that should be with them.
Yeah.
Very least.
And I have friends who work in group homes. They are mentors to people in the streets, and they go to court with them on a regular basis. Things like that. I think there should be more positions like that. There was I forget the name of the program off the top of my head, but there was a Crime Stoppers program where they paid former gang members to be in the streets and mediate solutions so that it didn't lead to shootings. And Rahm Emanuel slashed their budget.
Yeah.
And crime went up. I wonder why.
How about we use that money to increase police training? A lot of these unjustified police shootings that have been avoided had the officers have been trained to de-escalate the situation.
That's a great point. That's my cousin, by the way.
Yes, that is a very see, that's the thing. A lot of the while a majority of the major cities, their departments, they require at least a associate's degree in criminology, at least. But that's about it, and that's nothing.
That's like mental training and education, physical training too.
Nothing. Yeah.
So you're down south. I don't know if he still lives in Atlanta, but he did. Where that one dude beat up the 2 cops and took the taser and they killed him. Like, bro, you can't get beat up by a drunk dude. You got all these weapons. You got your boy there with you. You got to be better trained. Like, these cops fuck these fat donut eating motherfuckers. They should all be MMA fighters. They should all be the hardest dudes on the streets, and then they won't be so quick to shoot people because they're not going to be terrified every time somebody puts their fucking hands up at them.
Yeah.
Let these dudes, train these dudes like to be tough, to de-escalate situations, and to learn how to do all that sort of thing, man. Like,
I believe
I would pay for that.
I believe it was Woodrow Wilson that said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick."
Yeah. A lot of times these cops get scared, man, and then they go to their gun way too fast.
But you can't train a police officer to be confused that they're in the wrong house and enter the wrong apartment and then shoot the guy because they in Dallas. Because they thought that somebody was breaking into their house. Like, bro, no amount of training is gonna.
No, that's just stupid.
That's just ridiculous. That's just silliness. That's just straight up.
And get your taser stolen by a drunk dude in a parking lot, to where you got to shoot that dude in the back. You know what I'm saying? Like that should have been avoided by just being tougher and being better trained to handle people.
And I think the cops are also in a tough position because of all the social media and stuff. Like I know police officers from CPD I'm telling you, from like 10, 15 years ago, long time ago, that they were brought inside. They were like, yeah, we're going to reassign you to a different position, because he was saying there's the style of policing that I was taught. There's too many cameras around and it doesn't work. And the only thing that's going to happen is we're going to get fined or something. We're going to look bad on TV. So they took him off the street, basically. And I think that I applaud that, actually. I think it was a carefully considered situation. And the police made the decision as a group that we know that this policing model doesn't work and we don't want to be on TV. But then there's other cops that haven't gotten the message yet in the same department.
Oh, they won't.
Well, there's still a deep culture, and as long as the FOP is as strong as it is, that's always going to be a problem. That they're so bogus, and they don't. The thing they do best is defend bad cops. They become masters at it. It's very aggravating. And then you see these training programs they go through where they're like teaching cops to be predators. This dude, I seen this dude on. I was watching. Was it Last Week Tonight with John Oliver when he did his cops episode? If you can find that on YouTube. If anyone wants to look that up that's watching this right now, that's a great 30 minutes on the police. But there's a dude who does speeches 200 nights a week, traveling all over the country, this ex-cop, and he teaches cops to be predators and that everyone else is prey. Like, what the fuck, dude? You're supposed to serve and protect us. We're not your fucking prey. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, Jason just brought a comment: increase specialized training. 100 emoji. I think for sure. I think police should have at least a bachelor's, and I don't say that to be classist or to say but because I also support people being able to go to college to improve themselves, not for any job. But I think that
criminal justice.
You should have psychology.
Exactly.
History. I think if you're a police officer, for example, let's say Chicago Police Department kicked off a riot. They killed like 7 people in like 1917. They killed like 14 people in a riot because they was a bunch of people protesting for workers' rights, and showed up and started hitting people in the head with billy clubs, and the riot broke out. Like, I think that you should be taught what good policing is, but you should also be taught what bad policing is. You should be taught, if you're a Chicago police officer, you should understand not just that people hate you because you're a police officer and you're working on the West Side. You should be taught exactly why. You should be taught the fact that the Chicago Police Department killed Fred Hampton when his crime was giving, free lunches to school kids. The Black Panther created that program that's now a federal program, and the Chicago Police Department teamed with the FBI to murder him and while he was asleep. Like, I don't care. Like, that's in the past. Whatever your politics are your politics. But I think that you should have an understanding of the job. And for policing, you should know that history in the same way that I've done a deep dive into the history of technology since the 60s, because I want to know how this field came to be. And I think to just say we know there's bad apples out there. Well, no, there were bad apples before. you got here. So you have to understand that,
You're allowing the bad apples to go bad.
as Rob said, there's a culture, right? And in order to change the culture, ask any basketball player, ask about coach, ask any Pac-10 offensive lineman. If when you want to change culture and to change a program or a department or a group in a certain direction, first you have to buy into the changing of the culture, and you have to show people this is where we're trying to go, and this is why we're trying to go there, and this is how we're going to get there. Without that, you're not going to get anywhere. Reform is just empty talk.
So interesting side note, something I just kind of recalled. I was hearing an interview, and I think it was an old mayor of New Orleans, not current but recent, and they had a program they instituted with the New Orleans police where it was de-escalation training for your partner.
Oh,
it was
okay.
Hey, my partner looks like he's about to make a really bad decision. Let me teach me how to de-escalate him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very interesting idea that I've never heard floated around before.
Mm.
And they said the cops were reluctant to get into it at first, but when they did, they saw the value of it, and they should.
Yeah.
With George Floyd, one of those 3 cops should have stopped that dude.
And the one cop that was watching him,
they would have been trained to stop that.
No. One of the cops that watched him choke George Floyd to death is a training officer, a high-ranking training officer. He knew exactly what was happening. That was his job.
Well, he should have been trained.
And he just sat there and watched him die. Literally sat there and watched him die.
Yeah.
So I think that goes to what you're saying, culture. Like, yeah, here's hypothetically, he should have stepped in. He had the training to know it, but the culture does not create an expectation that cops self-correct cops in real time in the field.
Well, if you add it in the training protocols and make it the culture, and that sounds like what they did, which I think we need a lot more of. But I think, is it a small step? Yeah, but it's something, I guess. Anybody else have anything they want to throw out on this before we move on?
No.
Man, we're not getting a good fucking 45 minutes out of that. Poland, fun with numbers.
Fun with
numbers. Dig into the fucking best week of all your lives.
Oh, Joe just chimed in real quick.
Yeah, Joe just threw a paragraph.
Oh yeah, hold on.
Joe, I have my glasses on.
We need more black cops, especially in predominantly black neighborhoods. What's the plan to entice young black men to become part of criminal justice, and furthermore, in our court system once arrests are made?
Well, here's what you do. Here's what I think you should do. And that's make being the police a jobs program out of the high school to police their own communities. Make it a program you could start in high school, like ROTC, and then go do some local college, and then you walk the beat in the neighborhood you're from.
Yeah, and you can help in support roles. Let's say
the police need they need a
here's an idea.
PR rebranding is what they need, because nobody wants to be a cop anymore. You know what I mean? Like the first thing I ever wanted to do as a kid is I wanted to be a cop.
I wanted to be a firefighter.
I wanted to be a detective. I wanted to figure shit out. And then I was like, oh wait, I don't think I want to be a cop no more. But it's like it was cool, but now it's like nobody wants to be a cop. Nobody wants to be
that's just gotta start on the streets, man.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
my friends say cops are scared to walk the beat nowadays. Like, you can't even be out there with the people that you're fucking policing. Like,
I think it should be interesting. I like what Joe said about the criminal justice system and not policing, right? I think that we should do, like, let's say, to your point, let's say we did an internship, right? You want to become a cop, you're going to do an internship with the Northwestern, I forget what they're called off the top of my head, the Innocence Project, right? Your job for the next 6 months is to look at what bad policing looks like, look at what not handing over Brady material looks like, look at how these cops may have massaged or lied. And so you can look at policing as a full spectrum, right? Like, we're not just, okay, I arrested you, but that doesn't mean that you're guilty. And that doesn't mean that the criminal justice, the justice system is not interested in finding out if you're guilty or innocent. But as police officers, you should know that bad police or bad cases are out there where people have been locked up innocently or maybe not, to be determined by the court. But to see that your job is much bigger than you, and that mistakes get made. And very often in public policy, let's say I make a policy, you go over 20 miles an hour, your speed limit's 20 and you go 22, you get locked up, right? Okay, we can go back and change that law and repeal it. But the people who've gotten locked up, the people who may have lost a job because of that policy, whatever it may be, nobody ever comes back and says, my bad, here's your job back. And that's the problem with the power of public policy, is the decisions that you make, they're not going to be perfect, but they are perfectly going to impact people's lives in very concrete ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well said.
Yes. Let's get into.
Hit him with an effect. You might see me dance if you watch the show long enough.
We're gonna get into the latest polling. Final countdown. We're a week away.
Yeah. Fucking CNN went to the official election Chiron, so they got the side panel up, the white and blue with all the data. It's gonna be a tense week, man. I didn't sleep much last night.
All right, our trusty 538 poll, or polling anyway.
YouGov went gangbusters for Biden in Wisconsin just now.
The general election overall from YouGov is Biden's up 11. He's up 11 points on both.
Yeah.
YouGov just came out with a poll for Wisconsin that had him up plus 17.
Shit.
I got one. There's one right here that says 14.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
And to Nate's ever talked about this. The ABC News / the Washington Post, they very much are the gold standard in polling. So there's multiple. Obviously, you can poll many different ways, but the specific methodology that they use is considered, quote unquote, the gold standard or the best practices of all practices in polling. So that A plus is weighed very heavily and considered very strongly, and that's well deserved for the polling group to get that A plus as far as reliability or closeness to the truth as you can get for modeling. So many people looked at it and said that sounds really strange, but the numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah, and that's just in Wisconsin. I mean,
YouGov, I don't know though. Like I'm looking at a YouGov poll here for North Carolina, and it's got Biden up 11. That's kind of wild. I don't know. I don't know about that one.
It has Biden up. The 538 poll is it's a B from Harper Polling, and got Biden up 1 in North Carolina.
Yeah, like that sounds closer to the truth.
Were there some that came out in Texas the last couple of days? I believe a couple people moved Texas from leaning Republican to toss-up.
Yeah, hold on. Oh, yes.
Texas and Georgia.
October 26th, the A is A+, Siena College, New York Times. The upshot had Trump +4. And our RMG research had Biden up 7. And they're at a B.
For the purposes of discussing the polling, right? Like, okay, is Biden going to win Texas by 7? No. Right?
No.
Is Trump going to win Texas by 4? Maybe. Here's the thing. Trump won Texas by 30 points in 2016. Yeah. He has lost 26 points of his electoral lead.
That's insane.
From in 4 years.
It's insane.
Well, you can look at the differences between Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. I mean, they're pretty
So there's two things you need to consider in Texas. I sent the links over to Rich and Rob a few days ago. I don't have it handy, but I will pull it up shortly. The thing you have to consider about Texas is that Texas, Trump has actually increased his lead, or he's actually gaining more support among Hispanics in Texas than he did last year, 4 years ago. Now, the problem with increased Hispanic support in Texas specifically is that he has also lost anywhere between 7 to 10 points from in white educated people, white men, white women,
and bigger with women.
so yeah, especially suburban women. So actually, because he's losing a big chunk of his base, adding a secondary support from groups that are not expected to go his way is not as beneficial as you would expect, because he would actually need to gain something like 33% of the Hispanic vote, where I believe he's currently polling at like 25 or 27, to make up for the loss of his core base, which he's lost 7 to 10 points on. And again, he's been polling at 43%. How much can he afford to lose when you're already down 43?
Well, and here's a kicker that's been kind of surfacing in multiple states, but especially Florida and Texas in recent days. The 18 to 29s are up big from 2016, just in terms of voter percentages.
Yeah.
And I in Florida, I feel like that's really the Parkland kids. In Texas, I still don't think it's Trump votes. I don't think I don't think it is. I'm not saying no one 18 to 29 likes Trump, but I think 7 out of 10 of those probably are Democratic votes.
Yeah, and so so to get back to Texas very briefly, the Harris County, which is one of the largest metropolitans in all of America, it has already exceeded all of the voting totals of 2016. There we go, Rob just posted the link.
Yes, Joe, Antifa's coming to vote Trump out.
The Harris County has exceeded total voting of pre-election and pre-voting and then the election already, with 6 days to go, including the actual election day.
Of their 2016 vote right now.
You got to put it in the private chat.
Private chat. Gotcha. Okay. So I just posted the link from one of the accounts I follow on Twitter that is pretty reliable with polling. As mentioned, again, you have to look at.
This was real big too.
Yeah. Oh, can we talk about Nebraska too, real quick? Did you guys see the footage that came out of Omaha yesterday after the rally?
With the people that got stranded there?
Yeah. Literally stuck on the side of the road in the cold. If that's not an ample metaphor for the Trump presidency. For those that are not aware, Trump had a campaign rally in Omaha to try and win the Northeast 2 district. The thing that you need to know about Northeast 2 is that, first of all, it has one electoral college vote. One, right? Why are you playing for one vote? That reeks of desperation. Also, Joe Biden in the latest polling is up 7 points. So you would think he would go somewhere where it's a little bit closer. The other thing that's interesting about Omaha, Northeast 1, is that Trump has made a lot of visits to Omaha, but actually he's only landed there to go over the border into Iowa to campaign there. Yep, Dave Weserman. There you go. And so the interesting thing is that he actually landed in Omaha and he did a campaign rally there with 10,000 people or something like that. And, 6 to 9 or something like that. I forget. They claim 26,000 people came out. I've been to Omaha. 26,000 people don't live in the whole city. But so the campaign rally ended. People had parked miles away from the venue and been shuttled over there in buses to attend the rally. And the rally ended, and people left the venue, and there were no buses to take them back to the parking lot. So and it's dark. It's the middle of nowhere.
It's cold.
And they were just stuck on the side of the road for multiple hours until the buses come and pick them up. But it's funny, right? But it's not. It actually speaks a lot to the current state of the campaign for Trump. If he's even coming into Nebraska, if for one electoral vote, I mean.
But it's also symbolic that I bet you not one of them people that got stranded for all them hours switched their votes. They're probably still as rabid Trump fans as ever. It's probably
because what they're doing is they're making excuses for him the whole time.
Well, they become experts at it.
yeah,
wrong ever.
Oh, Omaha's population is 250,000. Thanks, Greg.
500,000.
Omaha's a good town. I've spent much time there. My brother went there for school out in Creighton University. Home of the greatest scorer in NCAA history / future Chicago Bull.
Yeah, you better calm down. You watch fucking Doug McDermott.
Dougie Buckets.
I'm here with Dougie Buckets, man. Get the fuck out of here. We can do that on this show.
So the polling is showing, of course, it's been. It held steady for roughly about a month and a half, and Biden's been rising more and more the closer we get. Yeah. A lot of people are afraid, me and Rich included, as probably you are yourself, Eddie, that the polling showed good for, Hillary was leading in the polling, but not like Biden.
Well, it wasn't as stable. She was already, I've been looking at a lot of like day by day comparisons, and she was already down to like 3 points at this time in 2016. And that was before Comey even came out.
No, Comey was 12 days out from the election, 11 days out.
Okay, well then she was in the middle of that happening.
We're 4 days removed from, or farther into the cycle.
Or 6 days out, yeah.
So the interesting thing in this case for 2020, I think people are hesitant to. I think people are trying to overcorrect the mistakes they made in 2016 when it comes to polling. But as Rich and Rob we talked about last week, this polling for this race is a lot different, right? I think the biggest takeaway, and I think the reason why Hillary lost the Comey thing, I think sunk her, but I think it sunk her for a very particular reason. And the reason being that, if you guys remember, ever since Trump came down in 2015 from the Golden Tower, he had a golden shower, and then he came down on his that election, I remember very well, right? I remember even being outraged when he had that spat with Chef Jose, and he pulled out of Trump Tower in the restaurant that they were going to be doing in like very early in the election. It was outrage after outrage after outrage. Yeah. That race felt so long. It felt so bitter. It felt so just mind-numbingly, crushingly long.
That was one of the worst.
I think after the FBI thing that came out, I think people just gave up. I think people were like, whatever, I don't care anymore. They're all crooks. I'll vote for Trump, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm over it. And I think that the opposite is true in this instance. I think people are fired up, ready to go. They care very much about who they're going to vote for. And it seems everyone's already voted. A lot of people have voted.
74 million.
74 million. So the idea that
over 54% of last year's total.
The idea that the race can tighten, I think, is a bit different in this instance, just because of the fact that this is a different race. I mean, as I said last week, we had COVID hit. We looked up. We were already at the DNC election. We look up again. We're already a week out. So I think that the shortened, more tight version of this election, the feeling of this election is, I think, detrimental to Trump, because it avoids sort of the wild swings of the 2016 election, and it also avoids the crushingly numbing nature of the election, where people were just exhausted. They didn't want to hear about Trump versus Hillary anymore. They were just like, whatever, give Trump a chance. I don't care.
I'm never
And
going
I think that sentiment is not being felt this way in this cycle.
I'm
You really think a lot of Trump voters are waiting till election day to go?
yeah, probably. I would expect a Republican push. Though the numbers in early voting, the Republicans have been kind of closing on the Democrats when the Democrats jumped out to an early lead. But there's still, like, when you look at those breakdowns, there's Democrat, Republican, and then there's fucking independent.
Well, what?
And those independent.
The latest numbers, there's been what?
Rob, if you can
74 billion votes.
No, yeah, he's right. If you pull up the Florida numbers, early voting and absentee ballots, mail-in ballots by party, the majority of the there is a distinctive difference between Trump voters that are waiting to vote and Democratic voters that have already voted. If you want to pull that up real quick.
But here's the kicker above all when it comes to this whole discussion. And this is where it really begins and where it ends for me. I've been asking this question for months and haven't gotten an answer. And the question is, what would it take for you to change your vote? And I'm not sure for anybody in America right now that there's anything that could happen for either candidate. They'd be like, man, you know what? I can't vote for that dude now. There's no way. Like, and that's the thing. Like, people are ready to jump off of Hillary Clinton's ship or just not show up. Nobody's budging this time. I don't know what it would take.
And here's the interesting point. If you're a Trump voter, what if you love Trump so much? You know, he's got a very rabid, hardcore fan base. Why haven't you voted yet? You know, we talked about this before, that the people who are Trump fans, you would think, let me get my vote in now. I can't wait to vote for this guy. And it looks like these people are waiting and waiting and waiting.
Well, you know, I'll play devil's advocate on that a little bit. For me, I've always been a day of voter because it's always been tradition to me. It's something that I like to do. I actually went to go vote yesterday, but it was raining out and the line was long. So I said, fuck that. But I might go back tomorrow, or I might wait for the day. I'm not sure. But every year before this year, I voted on the day of. It's just, I don't know, it's just something that I did. I don't know if it's tradition or habitual or how you want to consider it.
Here's the Florida early voting stats. It was updated 2 hours ago. 6.9 million people have voted so far.
72% of their 2016 vote total.
Yeah, 49.2% of registered voters, which is crazy. That's really high.
Oh yeah.
Democrats 2.8 million. Republicans 2.5 million. 41% and 37%, 37.5% respectively.
And this is a state that's decided by 1% usually.
Yes. 20% have early voted. 1.3 million people have early voted as no party affiliation.
Right. And those are
and I wonder
if these motherfuckers voted for Kanye West, I'm gonna bro, next week's fucking election show is gonna be entertaining, because if Kanye pulls in a decent percentage of the vote, I'm fucking flipping all this shit over.
Kanye's running for vice president. You guys know that, right?
In certain states, he is.
In certain states, he's running for vice president. Certain states, he's running as president.
He's running in states that he was too late to get on the ballot as the presidential nomination. He hopped on with that one. I forget the fucking person's name.
Yeah,
there you go. But the other states that he was able to get on the ballot as the presidential candidate, he did. And where were we? Where was we? I can't remember the fucking site last week where he's pulling 2-3% of the vote in some places.
Yeah,
it's insane.
I think Kentucky's pulling at like 3%.
So basically, right now, Democrats about 4%. More Democrats have early voted.
In Florida, yeah.
in Florida,
Uh,
but
these-
it's close.
yeah, and these totals are up everywhere. Georgia is at 77% of their 2016 vote.
So
total.
is it safe to say that all the Republicans who are voted early so far are voting Republican?
Well, that's the kicker too.
Well, so let me tell
Voting
you that
across
my
party
party affiliation, because my guess about these 20% of people who are not affiliated to in either party, 1.3 million, that's a lot of numbers. That's a big number. My guess is that a big chunk, a significant chunk of that is Puerto Ricans that moved to Florida after Hurricane Maria.
You know,
They probably signed up to vote once they moved to the states. They have the right to vote. They just can't vote in the presidential election, right?
Back to
So my guess is they signed up to vote when they moved and just signed up as a generic non-party voter because they were waiting to see who was going to be on the ballot. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see strong conservative support for Trump in Miami-Dade and outskirts of places like that.
You think so?
I think you'll also see, yes, the Cuban voters particularly, but I think you'll see a very strong counteraction of that from Puerto Rican voters that were not in Florida in 2016. I'd say put a pin in that one.
That said that a lot of the Puerto Ricans went back to Puerto Rico. So I don't know how many are still there. I'm looking at a coalition of the seniors in Florida that Trump threw to COVID.
Here's the Miami-Dade counter voter turnout percentage as of Wednesday morning at 9:40 a.m. as today at 9:40. It's in favor of the Republicans, of course, in Miami-Dade. So not much, but it's there.
And Robin, to what you said, there probably are some disaffected Republicans that are voting for Biden, but I also know some Barack Obama supporters that are now Trump supporters. Now I don't know how you make that conversion.
Yeah, that don't make
they're
sense.
out there. I know 4 or 5 myself. It's so weird to me that you would go from that to that, but
yeah,
it's been done. It's being done. So you might have some votes go the other way on both sides.
Yeah. Okay. So consensus polling, Biden still has a significant advantage. His approval ratings. What's been his lowest approval rating thus far?
I believe his lowest approval rating for Trump was 35% after Charlottesville.
Yeah, I think the lowest one I saw today was like 38. Most of them are in the low 40s. Yeah, that's kind of where he lives.
I think it's at like 42 right now.
Yeah.
Voters. We of course there's been all types of lawsuits.
Can I step back from this real quick because I this is interesting to me from a presidential politics standpoint or from a perspective of like we've talked about this before. Like I feel like how can anyone look at this guy and think he's doing a good job? Like how do you support this, right? I think a lot of this is baked.
You want to ask him?
No, I think a lot of this is baked into the cake. I think there's people who, regardless of who the president is, seem to think he's doing a good job. I think like a good 15% of that. It doesn't matter who the president is. They're always just gonna be like, yeah, whatever. He's doing a decent job. And I think that if you look at core Trump fan base versus like people who don't really care about about politics too much, but you know they haven't been fired yet. They don't. For them, it's meaningless. I think that some of the weight of the approval of a president is just based on the fact that they're the president.
Maybe so. I don't know. I've never answered one, so I couldn't tell you what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But it's definitely lower than I don't know. I mean, it's probably not lowest all time, but it's not great. When you're underwater and the approval rating is not good.
The Supreme Court handed down a second no today in the case. It was in Pennsylvania about the deadline.
Yeah, well,
the voting deadline.
The voting deadline was extended due to the pandemic, and the Republicans have launched.
On-
Well,
There
the
were two
Republicans
lawsuits against
appealed.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
and
Republicans appealed it,
yeah, they got both.
and
So
it
that's
was
not
denied.
right now.
Yeah. Also, signatures. They're not doing signature matching in Pennsylvania, so
No.
that's good.
Yep.
There was one state, man, I can't remember what the fuck state it was, but they're actually they're reaching out to you if they find errors on your ballots.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was
Yeah.
upheld, and that's good.
That's good.
Wisconsin, the Supreme Court ruled that their votes have to be received by election day, not in the mail by election day, not postmarked election day. So if you're in Wisconsin, then you better get your ass to a
That's
drop
weird. That
box.
don't make no sense. It should be. It should be.
Dropbox.
Yeah, it should be.
I heard
least
someone
postmark.
liken it to taxes. Like if your taxes are out by April 16th, you're good, even if they're received afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, each
It's
state.
the postmark.
I mean, of course, it's a Republican legislature, so that's what they're going to go for. The Supreme Court kind of held their hand through it. I don't know. I can't say.
Use a Dropbox. You can take it. You don't have to vote. You can vote in person if you want to, but you can go to your polling place and literally just hand it
You,
off.
voted, you already voted, didn't you?
Everyone check your local laws.
Yeah, I'm
Check your local laws, but if
Your voting laws.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm a like Rich was saying, it's a tradition. I'll
Yeah.
get on Tuesday morning, on my way into the office on Tuesday morning.
yeah, I do like
My only place is literally there's a park 4 houses away from my house, and at the park there's a fucking little trailer, what is it, a manufactured home fucking office trailer type thing, and that's where we're gonna vote in.
so you've seen my house. You know what my house looks like.
Yeah,
I'm 4 houses from the block and then a block away from the park.
yeah.
And the park is basically a school that I enjoy waking up election morning, stretch, turn on the news, walk over, have a coffee, walk over, go vote and come back. But please check your voting laws. When I went to do the early voting at the Supersite in Chicago, I was standing in line and there was a bunch of people that had their ballot and it was wrapped up and they were just walk in, drop it off, walk out. And I'm standing there like, why am I standing in line? Like, it's really that simple. And it really is that easy, but you have to know what is expected of you as a voter as well.
Right. So here, I got another fun one for you. So a Michigan judge ruled that you could not open and carry at polling places. And a Superior Court judge from Michigan just overturned that.
Yes.
So you can
The Wisconsin Supreme Court, I believe, overturned it.
I think it was the state Supreme Court.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah,
You
that's still
know
the
what?
Supreme
I
Which I
came
think is the
across.
Superior
I
Court.
came
I could be
across a
wrong.
bunch of that information last night inadvertently because, we're all going to Vegas next month for my birthday. And Nevada does not honor Indiana's gun license,
Yeah, not every state does.
which is weird because we honor theirs. But Nevada is an open carry state, so for everybody. So I could go there. I could take my gun with me, and I could open carry.
So your license is no good, but it doesn't matter
It
because you don't need one.
it can't be concealed.
It can't be.
No, I have to open carry.
Hmm.
So even in the car, if I'm driving with it, it has to be on my lap in plain view or on the seat in plain view, but I can't conceal carry.
You can't put it in your pocket, but you can put it on your dash.
Yes. And I could carry it on my hip while it's showing.
Well, I don't think you should be able to bring it into a polling place. But I mean,
But
apparently that's
so
what's
as I was
happening.
looking up all that information last night, most states don't have laws against it.
Well, I guess the kicker for Michigan is that they're still not allowed to open carry in churches or schools, which I think is where a lot of the polling places are. So it's still kind of like an end around. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what that's about. Like I don't know. I get the gun ownership and all that sort of thing, but with everything going on, with Trump telling people to come watch the polls, like you're gonna have these dudes out there with machine guns.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
was
Like the dudes that stormed the Capitol building. That's why I want to be dealing with when I'm trying to get my vote in.
or the
these
people that
assholes. Tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer.
yeah, it's this. Hey, I've said over and over, it's like a weird fucking TV show, weird movie miniseries, and fucking next Tuesday this episode is called the Final Countdown because the end of the episode is the season finale, which is the fucking election.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, here we go.
Right.
This is it. What's gonna happen? We're gonna get fucking am I gonna get to retire my fucking pitcher? Or is it literally gonna be 4 more? We gonna have 4 more years of him?
Fucking Cheeto Don.
So
Don Cheeto.
you think he had a change of heart? So fucking if he gets reelected, he'll do all the right things.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm so appreciative of you, America. I'm gonna do everything you want.
What we got next on the list?
It's time for you to talk about Trump and COVID.
Oh, already?
Yeah.
You didn't have nothing to get into yet?
Actually, I actually wanted to bring something up as well.
Go ahead.
Texas, Texas had the drive-by voting. The drive-by lanes. You could do your mail-in absentee ballot, and you could drop it off from your car in a car lane. And now the Texas state GOP is trying to sue to have the drive-by lanes in Harris County and all these places. I mean, 110,000 votes be thrown out because they weren't official ballots. So that's something to watch as well. I think it's ridiculous. I've mentioned before, I understand that, voting laws are arcane and they're set by local, state, county people. And you have to follow the law. If you have to have it dropped off on voting day and it can't be in the mail by the election day, and you put it in on election day and it doesn't get counted, I mean, you kind of have it coming to you. You have to know your laws. But I will say that people who go out of their way to get other people's ballots thrown out when they do it for purposes of political power. I mean, it's not just if you think that somebody's doing something illegal, by all means, tell it to the judge. But I think that to just try and consolidate your political power by universally getting ballots thrown out in certain places or closing polling places in majority, minority areas that are majorly made up of people who are minorities, whether they're, women or people of color or something like that. I think that's very anti-democratic.
Yeah.
And that is one thing about voting that drives me nuts.
I just hate that it's always the Republicans that are suppressing the vote. They're always fighting for less votes. Get more votes tossed out, make it harder to vote. Not that I want the Democrats to do it. I just don't get into it. And it's so one-sided. It's always the Republicans, always trying to make it harder to vote. I don't get it, guys. Let's come together and fucking vote.
Yeah, you would think that
right now.
You would think that just having good policies and connecting to voters in an authentic way. I mean, look at for example 2016, 2017 when they started their push to repeal Obamacare. These Republicans were terrified. They didn't even want to have town halls with their voters.
Yeah.
Because they knew what they were doing. I mean, if you're unwilling to stand in front of the people who voted for you and say, this is the policy I want to enact and this is why I want to do it, it shows you that you're not actually legislating from a policy perspective. You're trying to legislate from a power perspective. You're saying, I have the votes and you don't, so therefore it's the right thing to do for me to make this move and repeal Obamacare. It's the same situation with the ACB confirmation. However you feel about it, however you feel about the process, you can't tell me that there wasn't a gold standard about letting the American people decide in the election, and the Republicans just decided we don't care about that. We're getting our seat. Yeah. So I think if you're a Democrat, you need to reevaluate your tactics as well.
I very much agree with that.
People don't care about the midterms. The local, county, and state generally affects your life more than the president. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I'll say this, Ed Koch, what's his name? Oh, Ed Burke, who was the head of the finance committee, the alderman who was the head of the finance committee for Chicago for a very long time. His law firm is the one who gave Donald Trump all those tax breaks. So, if you think that, corrupt, these people enabling a corrupt businessman, money launderer is bad.
Get these
Think about the fact that
here.
there was a possibility 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago to vote against Ed Burke and bring somebody less corrupt in to be the finance guy, and these tax breaks might not have happened. Maybe he doesn't have the perspective of being the giant businessman that he was, and that starts from the bottom. It definitely starts from the bottom.
Yeah, no, Joe Robbins just agreed with you. No, I do. We talked about down ballot races earlier. They're very important.
And the other side of it too is
midterms.
The other side of the blue wave that we don't talk about. We talk about, oh well, it'll help Biden. Maybe we'll win some state houses or governorships or whatever. Think about it the other way. Think about the fact that local races, and maybe there's a very charismatic potential senator in Colorado, that you like in 2020, and you get up and you go and you want to vote for this guy and this guy only, and you look at the top of the ticket and you say, hey, who should I vote for? Should I vote Biden or Trump? I don't really vote in presidential elections. And maybe you decide you want to vote Trump. Maybe you decide you want to vote Biden. Or maybe you want to vote Kanye West. The point being that I think that
that's who Rob voted for.
We talk about down ballot. We talk about down ballot momentum, but there are definitely instances where the value of voting is upstream, and the local and having strong local candidates helps your national candidate.
Yeah, that's true. And judges.
All right. Here's the moment I've been waiting for all season. I've been very critical, but I'm gonna get real nasty. I hope I go viral. Real nasty. As nasty as this orange fuck's presidency's been.
Like Uncle Luke, Jello wrestling.
I kind of own the rights to that.
Please, Zuck, don't do us.
Don't do it. I have permission. It was made for me. It is October 28th, 2020. We have endured almost 4 years of Donald Trump as our president in a real reality show type of world. It has became even much more so. While some will argue some things have some good has come from it. Whatever good has come from it, I think, has been negated by all the bad shit that's come from it. People like to in a president's tenure, whether 1 term, 2 terms, after it's over, it's all about the good they did. They did this, they did that. When you think of Reagan, I have a lot of people. The last great president we had was Ronald Reagan. Excuse me? Excuse me? The guy who slashed the corporate tax to the point where Reaganomics was supposed to have the trickle down effect, and nothing trickled down. Only thing that any kind of gap that was made was from the poverty level to the wealth to what is now an even bigger gap with the 1%. They think the good because he was involved in the Berlin Wall coming down and shit like that. He had a lot of good things, but they overlooked the bad. Same thing with with Clinton, you don't really remember anything with Clinton. It's just that he got his dick sucked in Oval Office.
And then we had the internet boom.
Then boom, so it didn't really matter. But everybody's going to try to dissect after Trump, hopefully after next week. Not because I don't like him, because I don't know him personally, but I mean, from the outside looking in, he's a piece of shit. There's more people that have come out and say he's a piece of shit than say he's cool, like whatever. Somebody talked to me last week, like had a discussion. They're sitting in the chair you're sitting in right now. I was in here smoking and we're having a discussion about Trump. And why I don't like him. Well, just his business practices have been shady. As a businessman, he's nothing to look up to. And he's always been the epitome of what you would want to attain, his name is synonymous with wealth, and all types of high rises and cool shit, but they highlight the good shit. You don't realize he ran all his casinos into the ground. He almost is single-handedly responsible for decimating Atlantic City.
The king of debt.
He came here. He came to Gary, Indiana with a bunch of promises. He brought his little fucking Miss America pageant or whatever, Miss USA or whichever one he owned. He brought it here for a couple years and then fucking sold his shit and left. Didn't do none of the shit that he promised. Fuck Gary over. Just like he's done continuously. Almost all his businesses has failed. The only true success he's ever had was The Apprentice. And even with that, he got a minuscule fucking slice of that pie.
Yeah.
With the New York Times tax shit that they were able to attain and release, he made something around $427.1 million or something, 427.1, something around that.
Still
maybe
decent cake, but he's a billionaire.
Over that long of a term, you would have think he would have got more from it, but it's not a thing that he owned,
Yeah, he had to split that with Mark Burnett.
Yeah, and then NBC. So his bad things have outweighed good since the beginning of his existence. Okay.
Fair point.
And his presidency is no different. Okay. His big thing was draining the swamp. His big thing was ushering in a new healthcare plan that was better than Obamacare. None of it's happened. No. The swamp wasn't drained. It was instead he brought a more invasive species into the swamp.
The creature of the Black Lagoon.
Things, people that had no fucking idea were not qualified for the job whatsoever. No. Come on, you're gonna do this for me. You're gonna do that. And it's been a complete shit show. I've compared it many times. If there was a parody movie, and you know what? I hope the country does a little bit better over Biden, but I hope he does. I hope he's a fucking idiot too. So like, it's good for the show. I'm not opposed to. You could go on Facebook and you could spend hours and hours and hours and hours because I post a lot, and you could scroll back until, shit I called out Obama on too. Yeah. Same thing with any president, and I'm not opposed to voting across lines. I voted for Bush twice. I had my reasons at the time when I didn't think Al Gore was ready to be a president. Now I wish he was, because at least he knew about global warming then.
Right.
I don't know what that would have to do with anything else that has gone in the world since then, and then I really wasn't gonna fucking not vote for him in fucking 2004. So. But we always look for the good they did, never look for their faults. And which fault do you want to highlight? Whether it was his new healthcare plan, that's been coming for 2 weeks. You know how many times he said it's coming in 2 weeks?
It's coming for 4 years. 2 weeks for 4 years.
Because there's not one.
No.
First, they're not going to take away pre-existing conditions. Then they're not going to be able to make that happen. Then but he can't answer how. And then you could go to his immigration policies. There's a lot of people who are against it. I live near the border. I live 15 minutes from the border. I went down there and I watched shit unfold that was being filmed. I seen shit happening. Um, Protesters were very, very restrained, protesting peacefully. And here come the Trumpites, the trumpets, the fucking
Chimpanzees.
yeah, I guess because they're fucking. You know what? That's not fair to chimpanzees because they might be a little more intelligent.
Oh, see
There's
now you're pissing the listeners off.
that's fine. And this might not ascertain to them at all, but there's a majority of Trump's base who he does not even appeal to. He's not for them. He's explicitly against them, and
Yeah.
they will rally for him harder than anybody
That's
else.
most of his base, to be honest.
They will not highlight his faults because he has none to them. For instance, the
Well,
latest.
no, I disagree. I disagree with that completely. I think that they view him as a very flawed individual. He can't help himself from stuffing his hands down, or he can't literally stop himself from grabbing a woman by the pussy, or stop himself from stuffing millions of dollars, taxpayer dollars, our dollars that we work very hard for, in his pockets. I think what appeals to them is the naked selfishness of it, that he is unwilling or unable to stop himself from grabbing everything in sight to
You don't have
appeal to himself, whether it's the narcissism, whether it's the
Here's the
lying,
thing.
whether it's the money, whether it's the women. They want to. I think a lot of Trump supporters see themselves in Trump in that they wish that they could be as
You're
shameless
both
as
right.
he is.
Is actually the correct answer.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of both of what you described.
He lives in a whole nother world where he don't have to. What's normal and regular for us, he never experienced. He's living and he has this perception that everybody knows what he knows type how he views everything. Everybody else should have that type of view. You know
Dude,
what I mean?
at the last debate, he was laughing at Joe Biden talking about being around a kitchen table as a family. Like that idea of like kind of disgusted and amused him.
I know we haven't seen
Well,
kid.
yeah.
We didn't see his youngest kid for like a year and a half, and it was like a soap opera kid. He came back fucking 7 feet tall. It's just weird. But anyway, back to what I was saying. As I was preparing for the show last night, and because we knew what I was going to go with, what we were going to get into by me going through, going on with this Trump shit. It's a segue into basically the last.
Joe wants to know, what specific policy do you hate the most? I'll tell you which one I hate the most: ripping children away from their parents, and putting them in cages.
Well,
And
yeah.
you're right that Obama did build the cages. I mean, that definitely deporting children, and Obama was worse for deportations than Trump was. But also think about the fact that making it harder to cross the border means that the human traffickers, the coyotes that run cartels and stuff like that, they get more money when you make the border difficult to cross. You're putting more money in the criminals' pockets by doing this. I'm not saying that the border should be easy to cross through. We do need a border, but what happens is people get desperate. They go into more remote, more dangerous areas in the desert and end up dying there. So yeah, we're catching less people across the border, but also there's bigger graveyards in the desert.
Yeah. I also I've made more money the last 4 years than I've made in the 4 years before that too. But in the 4 years before that, I made more money than the 4 years before that.
Yeah, home values are higher and they're easier to sell with lower interest rates. True. I just bought a house, Joe. I just put in an offer on a house.
You can go through cycles. While the rates haven't exactly got that low, but you could go through cycles where the same things happen. The economy's went up and down, but you have to look and once you I'll skip over a bunch of shit because as I was thinking about it last night, I was like, I can't go chronologically through everything that he's done that you're like, what the fuck? Because we'll be here forever. So I was gonna touch on a couple things, but the basis of it, and like you said, Joe, since JB shut your shit down. But here's the thing. if our response to coronavirus was what it was supposed to be, the shutdown may not lasted. We're still basically in a shutdown.
Yeah.
We've never rounded the corner. We've never they said
We never shut down. I mean, look, more to the point. Yeah, JB shut your job down. JB shut it down. We never had a national lockdown. We never had a national mask mandate. We never had the invocation of the National Defense Act to build PPE and ventilators, the things that were the purpose of the shutdown, right? Like, we shut things down because we knew this pandemic was coming and we wanted to keep people safe. But then we decided, actually, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to let the virus escape through America. We're going to open up, right? Opening up is literally putting people at risk for a pandemic because they're in the bars drinking or whatever it is that people do. People have this idea that it's safe to go out because the government says so, not because the government says that it's actually safe to be there. Look at the CDC. They don't want you at the bars and the restaurants. They don't want you at Sturgis. The economic damage to the country caused by an ineffective shutdown has forced, at a national level, has forced states and governors and mayors to make up the rules as they go along. And you've seen that actually it's been a failure on all levels. And the reason for that is because the people who oversee it the most, the pandemic response office in the White House, the people who used to work in Wuhan monitoring viruses, and that office that was suspended in 2018, they've been gutted intentionally. And so now we're stuck in trying to make the best of a very difficult situation. And I think to say that, yeah, JB did shut your job down, but he had to or he felt that he had to because of the lack of leadership from the top. I mean, I wouldn't trust Jared Kushner or one to be the kitchen manager of a Buffalo Wild Wings, much less to make my order. Like, I think when we talk about national policy, I think that we can look at Lori Lightfoot and JB Pritzker arguing about whether or not the bar should be open. I think that unequivocally the science is very clear. The question is, what are the economic impacts and what are the trade-offs? We open back up and let's say 1 million people, or let's say 10 million people don't die. Only 350,000 die, right? But we have 10, 15,000, 20 million people infected. These are we don't understand this disease. So we don't know that you catch COVID and in 5 years your lungs blow up and you die, right? We are potentially exposing people to long-term chronic condition that we don't understand, and we don't know what that impact on our health system is going to be in 5, 10, 15 years. So yeah, the economic impact is vast, but the economic impact is vast because it's not safe to be around people.
Yeah.
And we've built a society that is built, the economic engine is built around socialization. I never considered, like, I have friends that work in bars and restaurants, and you never consider that this pandemic would come and make it impossible for people to come and sit around on the table. But now we have to deal with it, and we have to deal with it because the guy on the top won't deal with it. Mark Meadows went on TV and said, we're not going to get control of the pandemic. They've given up. I don't think they ever had a plan to even pretend that they were going to fight the pandemic.
Donald Trump also said
literally just ran around the bases declaring. What happened was he got struck out right at the bottom of the ninth, in Game 7 of the World Series. Everyone's looking at him. 3 pitches right down the middle, fastballs. He chose not to swing. He just, stood there, no swing, and got struck out. Everyone saw him, and Trump still took a victory lap around the bases like he had a walk-off grand slam. Like, it's insane to me. There's absolutely not.
I don't listen.
Absolutely, the whole national policy. There's a whole group called the Centers for Disease Control. Dr. Fauci created.
Yeah, I'm
help
pretty sure if I
end
went
it.
to the WHO, I would find plenty of data to offset what you just said, Jason.
The question is not shutdowns versus
I mean,
death.
if they
The
didn't
question
work, then why is everybody doing them again? Half of Europe's locked down right now.
Yeah.
For the second or third time. Like they're not doing it over and over again because it's not working.
Here's what it comes down to.
But it sucks. But let me get this one point in. And this is the part that everybody's missing with it. Oh, it's shut down. Fucking sucks. I want to go back to work. Wouldn't it be nice? And this is what I advocate for all the time. Wouldn't it be nice to have a government that could aid in your shutting down, do things to help you stay home? Like I know we had a stimulus bill, but what you got $1,200 and a smile. They cut up $500 billion. We don't even know where the fuck it went.
$5.12 a day.
Trump fired the guy.
Basically, what it comes down to,
where it goes. So we don't know where that money went.
Basically, what it comes down to, the $1,200 stimulus that everybody got came down to, like, as of the other day when I read the article, it was $5.38 a day. That's what you got to live on from the government.
Yeah.
While the major corporations got tax break after tax break and fucking they got bailouts.
The shutdowns are not necessary. The shutdown is not necessary. You're right. But the problem is we have to identify all the cases of coronavirus and quarantine those people so that the people that are healthy don't have to be shut down, right? The problem is when you don't do testing, when you don't do contract tracing, when you don't do any of these things, the virus is going to spread uncontrolled and people are going to get sick. And now your best course of action is a ham-fisted, economically devastating response, which is to lock everything down and close the government, close the society. And it doesn't have to be that way.
And by the way,
it does not have to be that way.
Talking about fucking shutting down, like I'm not going in your restaurant if it's open.
Yep.
Now,
yep.
I don't know that opening is going to make you. I mean, it's going to make you some money, but you might just incur more losses as a business right now because the consumer their safety is shitter.
Yeah, there's fixed costs that are going to the business, whether it's rent, utilities, whatever it is. The majority of money being made in bars and restaurants is made off of drinks, right? If you can't keep the bar open and have people inside the bar drinking,
exactly,
the restaurant's going to lose money. What's the point of having it open? I mean, isn't it better to have people sitting at home on a strong social safety net for the purpose of ending this faster so that we don't have to have shutdowns in 2023?
Look at all the money that these billionaires made during the pandemic that could have, if they were taxed more, that a portion of that money that was taxed could have went to stimulus.
Some income is better than no income. You're right, but the government has the money literally in the bank right now.
I would like to see more resources steered towards the actual people.
Yeah.
And I think that could have gone a long way for people like you, Joe, that couldn't go to work. That's just how I feel about it. I think that's what the government's for. That's why we put in all the money to make them run.
What it comes down to is this guy right here.
The question: what is the actual death rate compared to the cases? It is significantly lower and has been on the decline for months. Okay, but we don't understand to the point. We don't understand this disease yet.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
we don't understand what a case is because this is a new disease. Surviving it and having severely compromised lungs is not a win.
Right.
It's better not catching coronavirus at all.
They're just uncovering what they call long haulers now. Yep. People that have long-term effects from this. And it happens, man. It's not a death or you're fine scenario. There's many different outcomes. It seems to affect everybody differently, to be honest. I don't know. Eddie's right. We don't know what to make of it entirely yet.
So, and I think I get frustrated because when we talk about public policy, right? Not just health policy, but public policy in general, the actions of one person affect the group. And so if I'm driving around in my car without a seatbelt and I hit a tree and I die, well, I should have put a seatbelt on probably. Maybe I shouldn't have been driving drunk. But we have to talk about there are actual costs to that, not just like, oh, he totaled his car, it was a $10,000 whatever. There's somebody who's got to come out there and clean up the dead body. Somebody's going to drive, some kid's going to drive past and see a dead body on the side of the road. My family's going to have to be contacted. They're going to be sad and broken up. I mean, there's all these costs that avalanche to society because of the decisions of one or two people. I mean, look at Justin Turner. Bro, you have COVID-19. You won the World Series. Your manager is a cancer survivor, and you take your mask off and you're taking photos next to him when you know you'll actively have coronavirus. It's ridiculously selfish to think that Justin Turner fought security, refused to stay away from his teammates because he was so worked up about the fact that they won the championship, and it's now probably going to infect half of his team. These decisions are not made on an individual basis. Like, oh, I don't feel like I need a mask. Well, okay, congratulations. You don't feel like that. You need a mask. You're a strong, independent American with a free thinker. You not wearing a mask and you catch COVID, you have to go to the hospital. It increases the risk of the nurse getting sick. It increases the risk of the doctor getting sick. It increases the risk of the ambulance driver who took you to the hospital getting sick. And more importantly than that, why? What, do you want to catch COVID? No.
Some people just might.
I don't even want to catch the flu, much less COVID.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Cases
Guys,
are up everywhere.
COVID. This was not on the schedule, but goddamn it, it's happening. We're leaning into it.
Cases are up everywhere, literally everywhere, especially out here. And national cases were up higher than we were what we thought was the fucking peak.
Internationally, look, France had 150,000 cases in 3 days. 3 days, 150,000. Does that sound like a virus that's under control? No. Yeah, they locked down again because they had to. That many people get sick of anything in 3 days? As a responsible person, what is it? I mean, unless it's diarrhea or like, hives or something that's not life-threatening, it's a very serious situation. And it requires a very serious response. It doesn't require Jared Kushner saying, Cuomo didn't work the phones hard enough, so now his people are going to suffer, and that's his fault, or that's their responsibility. They're going to have to suffer, is what he said. They're going to suffer because Cuomo didn't do his job and didn't kiss the ring. Regardless of how you feel about Trump or his COVID response, or Jared Kushner or Cuomo or anyone else, these are all Americans. And more to the point, it's not even about Americans. You think I want people in France to die from coronavirus just because I don't know who they are and they're not the same, they're not from the same country as me? No, the more cases, the more likely it is for the virus to mutate, as we've seen already. It has, and the more likely it is for it to become more contagious and to become COVID-20 or COVID-21. And so these are things that we are risking by talking about more cases, right? Every case is a risk for the virus to mutate. And so saying, well, people haven't died yet because the death rate is lower than what it was before, first of all, underscores that, first of all, we're not testing enough, probably. Probably the rates are lower than the death rates are lower than what we think they are, but that probably understates the severity of the infection rate in America.
And also, let me just throw in real quick that COVID is the 4th largest mass casualty event in U.S. history. So, we're sitting here acting like it's barely killing anybody. It's not what history is telling us. When you look at the numbers in historical context.
We're averaging
9/11. 9/11 don't matter.
We're averaging 9/11 every 3 days.
Yeah.
North Carolina just had a petition from the GOP rejected by the federal Supreme Court in a move to strengthen voting rights in North Carolina. The opinion just got dropped a few moments ago. I will share it with you in the private chat.
So they ruled in our favor?
Yes. Well, they ruled in democracy's favor.
I mean, that's my favor. I consider myself quite democratic.
I want to be able to hug my parents and my niece and my friends and see people again.
I don't want
And I'm fine with not seeing anyone for the next 2 years. Honestly, I've seen I'm gonna tell you straight up. I've seen total 10 people in the last year, and they've all been outside and they've all been socially distant. And I'm not saying I see them on a regular basis. I mean,
Hey, I
I've
see
seen,
you.
yeah, I've seen Rob, but the point being, like, the health experts have said that the best way to end this pandemic is to socially distance, stay inside as much as possible, wear a mask. That the three things you gotta do. In Spanish, they say mask up, maintain your distance, and maintain your health, or something like that. Like,
yeah.
stay inside, wear your mask, don't go to the bar. That's all they're asking you to do, and you're going to be able to see your friends faster. You're going to be able to get back to normal faster, and more importantly, the people you care about are not going to be dead. It's not worth it to see somebody like you go Dr. Ezekiel, who's leading the response in Illinois, is uh, she said, if you want to have a large gathering for Thanksgiving, you're going to have a death in your family by Christmas. That's not a very good Christmas present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys do White Elephant, but that's not how I do White Elephant. And so I think it's clear what is the definition of COVID death and where we are with flu pneumonia death at this time compared to the past 5 years. Okay, and we can get into that too.
Flu.
So I think that when
flu,
it's
we average about 30,000 flu deaths a year. So you'd have to go back about 7 years and add them all up to compare them to this year's COVID deaths.
So yeah, I think in probably, I mean, I'm 33. I wouldn't say a lot, but I've seen many things. I think this COVID thing is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life, and dangerous. And I'm from the south side of Chicago. I don't scare easily, but I am definitely not going to the bar or seeing anyone anytime soon, and that's not changing anytime soon.
See, and here's why I am.
An Indianian.
Why we're 7-8 months into this, I'm over it. I'm back. I've been back to life's been normal for me for about 2.5, almost 3 months now.
I kind of was over it, but then I had a couple close calls recently, and I'm tightening back up.
Yeah, we've had a couple close calls, but it's yeah. That's why we had a close call here. That's why last week's episode was done remotely. Rich was at home. I was here. Of course, Eddie wasn't home, but that all came back cool. So
I just hate that
Well-
ultimately the whole discussion boils down to human life versus saving the economy. I
Yeah,
don't even want to put a dollar over human life. Now, conversely, like, your bills have to be paid.
yeah. And here's the other side of the argument too.
Fairly, I get that, but that's where I wish the government.
why were we
give
the
us some
least
more resources
inactive?
to work
Why were
with.
we the least inactive country with helping its citizens?
Well, here's the other side of the argument. To be completely fair, we all know that every person on this earth has a shelf life. You could spend every dollar trying to keep somebody alive, and they're gonna die at some point. So there is a question of balancing interests, right? But that's why we need leaders to talk to us like adults and say, these are the benefits and these are the trade-offs, and this is the decision I'm making based on you guys voting me in, and this is why I feel this is the best decision. And instead, it is what it is. Literally, that's what they said. It is what it is. So you're right that we're not putting. It's not just about the dollar cost. We're not just saying, well, we want to save 10 million or we want to ruin the economy. The idea that the Democrats would shut down the economy for months over a fake pandemic just to make Donald Trump look bad in a calendar year of election is one of the most grotesque lines I've ever heard. I'm not one to overreact. But the government was very clear in what they said months ago, and they haven't changed their minds yet. Stay inside, wear your mask, wash your hands. So I think about the fact that we've had months to prepare for this. We've had months to talk about what the best way to move forward is. And guess what? This conversation hasn't gone anywhere because the people at the top have no interest in moving the conversation forward.
No, they're fine.
They're more interested in ramming through Supreme Court justices than they are taking care of the average American.
38 days. 38 days.
Yep.
That's all it took to get her sworn in. 38 days. Meanwhile, I got, well,
Nope. Go ahead.
buddy. Meanwhile, I got my stimulus check. I got my stimulus check in April 17th. I got mine, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, I remember that. We talked about that because it was right on my birthday.
yeah, I was in Vegas during the pandemic. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm going to Vegas," you know. And there was no mask policy yet, but I wore a mask through the airport. I wore a mask on the plane. I flew to Vegas for $11. I flew back for $17.50. You know, and
There were probably like 3 people on the plane.
no, it wasn't bad. I mean, I had on the way there, the middle seat was empty. On the way back, I had the whole row to myself. But on the way back, I flew Southwest, and Southwest this whole time has been doing no middle seats. So it was a nice, relaxing flight both ways. It doesn't really matter. I went and I did whatever. But while I was there, I awoke one morning to my $1,200 deposit, April 17th. With that being said, today is Wednesday the 28th of October. That's 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months. Here's $1,200.
Senate just adjourned. Good old Cocaine Mitch.
For
my favorite of yours.
But the good thing is, well, my company is labeled an essential business because we're a news media company. So our media company that produces news segments, like this is considered a news
Also,
segment.
it doesn't seem like anybody's even enforcing that anymore.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about from the beginning. So but the thing is, in the beginning, when the whole building was open, where the recording studio was open and everything like that, nobody had money to record because they got $1,200 payment 6 months ago. So Mitch sucks. Yes, Mitch does suck. Yes, Joe, I agree with you.
Mitch sucks.
Turkey neck Mitch. He
Why
looked like a scary person.
God, he's the fucking camel face motherfucker.
Joe says, why inflate the numbers of people? So, I mean, this is a good question because not everyone dies from COVID, right? Or it's not the primary reason why they die. So if you have COVID and they listed, for example, they try to list George Floyd's cause of death as COVID-19 when we all saw the police officer choke him out to death.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think that it's either or. I don't think that I think people are taking it as either or. But I think that it doesn't matter. Having COVID doesn't make it easier for you to survive the flu or pneumonia or whatever it is you may have, or diabetes. So, you know, I think it's question. I think people don't understand medical examining the way that most ME offices are set up. When you do an autopsy, you are looking for contributing factors, as well as the primary factor, the primary aggravating factor. And sometimes, you know, like I was watching one of these ME office shows or whatever, and they listed this guy's death as a heart attack. Turns out this guy had a cocaine habit and woke up and was shooting up lines at like 4 a.m. and an overdose and died from a cocaine overdose. But like his heart gave out because of the cocaine, obviously. But he was also 75 or whatever. Like when you look at the root cause, we're not saying COVID is the reason why he's dead.
Well, I look at myself as an example. Like, I've got fucking 4 dead kidneys in me. I've had a triple bypass with a valve replacement. I've got a bunch of other shit. If I get COVID and die, what are you going to say killed me?
The House, the Senate, the President, or the local government. Vote them all out. You guys haven't raised against any Democrats. Well, I think the House did pass a bill to benefit people with a stimulus package that Mitch McConnell refused to. It's been 500 days, 200 days. Mitch McConnell refuses to pass it.
I've been with Democrats is that there's not enough of them. I mean, listen, man, it's like a chess.
No, I
know some of these guys are jerk offs, yeah, but fucking we need them to get our shit through.
No, I think Lori Lightfoot has been very inconsistent. Lori Lightfoot has tried to have it both ways with JB Pritzker, and it's really frustrating because last week she was saying that bars and restaurants were safe, and that the majority of spread was in people's houses, in multi-generational families. Now JB Pritzker wants to shut the bars down, and she's saying no, the bars aren't spreading COVID. It's these multi-generational houses. Like, which way is it? So she's afraid of. I think she's afraid of actually the consequences of the position. I think that she wants to keep everyone happy, and in order to do so, she has to go with the political winds at the moment, and she's shooting herself in the foot because she is constantly trying to change her mind and looking weak in doing so, while also getting ran over by the governor, because guess what? He's the governor and you're the mayor. I don't think she's done a very good job from day one. And I'll tell you from personal experience, because I know people in the state government and city government. They were ready to announce, and Rob, you remember this. They were ready to announce a lockdown on Friday, the 9th or something like that. And instead they locked down on Tuesday. The reason why they didn't do it is because they had a discussion about doing it, and they were going to come out and have a news conference at 4:00 on Friday, announcing the lockdown, right? The one lockdown, not the overall idea of let's shut down long term. And they were all ready to do the press conference. It was leaking out of City Hall. We're going to lockdown for 2 weeks. Get your supplies ready. I mean, it was all over social media. I remember Joe Freshgood tweeting about it, saying 17 people have texted me saying you didn't hear this from me, but the mayor's about to have this press conference. It didn't happen until Tuesday. It didn't happen until Tuesday because Lori Lightfoot decided not to do it, right? And then the governor announced on Monday that we're going to a lockdown. And Tuesday rolls around, the 13th. Guess what? We're locked down. I don't think she's done a very good job at all. I will take shots at Democrats equally. Lori Lightfoot she's going to be a one-term mayor for sure. And she was going to be a one-term mayor even before COVID hit.
Yeah, and to get to this, is Pelosi just looking for a personal win? She's rejected multiple offers and has been called out by others, including CNN on it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing on everything she's rejected. Everything that the Republicans have brought forth had nothing to do with the people. It's all been for businesses.
A lot of it was the liability protection from COVID.
Yep. Yes.
And then remember, she started at her bill was at $3 trillion.
Yes.
So she's already come down to $2 trillion. But is she looking? I don't think she's looking for a personal win. I do think she's very hesitant to give Donald Trump a win, but I think they've both misplayed it badly. Because I think if you're either side, like, I mean, if you don't think Nancy wants to pass a bill, then give her what she wants. And
Yep.
if you don't think the Republican Senate wants to pass a bill, accept their fucking offer and play
Yep.
chicken with them. Let's see who's really trying to do what. Let them choke on it, but neither
Yep.
of them have the balls to do it.
Yep. I remember the healthcare summit that Obama did, where he brought all the leaders together to talk on both sides to talk about moving forward with healthcare, and how there were some people in the room that were very pleasing on camera, and then the cameras left and they were taking shots at each other. Typical DC politics. But there's nothing stopping Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi getting on a Zoom call right now on CNN, sit together for 8 hours and hammer it out. Nothing.
Wow.
And that's okay. It's a shot at Trump and Mitch McConnell more so because they have to approve the legislation from the House, but there's plenty of room for them to be bold and decisive if they want to. Donald Trump could turn around right now and say, "Hey, I'm a billionaire. I'm donating $500 million to a community in Ohio to help them out during these tough times." Now, that actually might be highly illegal due to campaign finance laws, but there's nothing. The guy who's here to break all norms and get things done is not getting anything done on this issue, and I find that highly concerning. Because he's the one where ultimately the buck stops. You can only go into restaurants if you want to gamble. Yep. I've seen people gambling at the bar, drinking, hanging out.
It's all gonna be a shit show.
It's
It'll get
like
worse again before it gets better.
So to go back to Joe's point, the reason why Lori Lightfoot said the pandemic was under control was because they wanted bars and restaurants open before in fall, before winter came, because they know that there's no outdoor dining. You can't have drinks inside. These restaurants are going to fold. So for them, it's the idea of control. They're trying to sell you that that this is under control, and therefore you're safe to go out to these bars and restaurants. They know you're not. They know you're not. But again, it comes back to, how do we handle this when we're not getting support at the top? Why is it on Chris Cuomo to pound the phones for PPE and ventilators? We have a stock of national ventilators. Jared Kushner is saying, well, they belong to the federal government, not individual states. Yeah, exactly. There is a federal government. That's why all 50 states share resources, so that when there's surges in New York City, we can chop our people out to Arizona or Florida or somewhere where cases are lower. And when cases spike in South Dakota and North Dakota, we can help them out in Idaho or Iowa or Montana. But it requires coordination. It requires willful coordination. This doesn't just happen in thin air. People don't just magically get transported from one hospital to another. Somebody's filing paperwork. Somebody's got to fuel up the helicopter. Somebody's got to, work as an air traffic controller. Chris Cuomo sucks worse than Mitch. Chris Cuomo is lucky that the pandemic hit, because everybody hated him and were ready to kick him out right until this happened.
Well, one, you guys got your Cuomos confused.
Yeah.
You're talking about Andrew Cuomo.
Oh, Chris Cuomo's the guy from CNN.
No, Chris
I've been bashing Chris Cuomo this whole time.
Radio show, not his TV show. His radio show was much better. Right?
Yeah.
You probably won't like it, but I like it.
So I've been bashing the CNN guy all this time.
So whatever.
Yeah, I mean, lock them both up. I don't care, Chris and Andrew.
Hey, they did something wrong, but I don't think they have so
far. The fact of the matter is,
to
wrap this up, the fact of the matter is the supreme leadership of this country dramatically dropped the fucking ball on this. It's been a fucking shit show since the beginning. When he downplayed it, yes, there's evidence he downplayed it. He knew about it beforehand.
Some leadership would have been nice.
Yeah, and it's planning. But he's never been a good leader at anything. So
He's not a good governor. He's a good campaigner. He's a good politician. He's not a good governor.
Well, yeah, and that's the problem, right? The problem is, first of all, you have to be a huge asshole to think, with a giant ego, to think that you can run for president and do the job. But we vote for people who are good at um, running political, at being political candidates.
yes,
We don't vote for. We don't generally vote on people who we think are going to be good stewards of political resources, of offices, political offices. So we generally, Trump was a much better candidate than Hillary. I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you otherwise. And people voted for him as a result of that, and they have a right to. I mean, it's a campaign. It's just like playing baseball or something, right? You have to go out there and win it. You have to take it from somebody, right? In some capacity, like, not that it's a hostile takeover, but you have to go out there and win the vote and for people. But uh, governing and running for governor are two different things, much different.
yeah. It's like I said, it's been a shit show. Ever since his inauguration, no healthcare has not been followed up. He has dropped the ball on coronavirus. Here's the thing. You're supposed to lead by example. We are the number one country in the world. So we're supposed to lead by example in everything we do, and we're just like a fucking toddler. And it's so surreal that it's an actual real thing. Like this is how it is, and can it be reversed? Probably not. It's so ingrained. Like we might as well just fucking the world end and restart and hope it's better for the next generation of people.
We can get beyond Trump, but I think
It's not so much just him
and the
though.
things that he stood for. Yeah, they're going to be back again in the younger candidate. We're going to be having this battle again someday.
Yeah, I definitely expect the next election to
Yeah,
be
there are no
there's no supreme leadership.
open democracy, but that's the thing. Trump has not acted like that. Trump's acted his whole presidency presidency that he's the supreme leader.
He's undone a lot of democracy,
And he don't believe in democracy.
piece by piece.
I will say that, to me, at the end of the day, the number one thing that the government is the number one obligation that the government has is to maintain the health and safety and wellness of their citizens, not to cut funding for for schools and mental health clinics and hospitals and all these things, to give a lower tax rate to billionaires. Like, bro, your job is to make sure that we're healthy and prosperous and we're not all diabetics. And if you see this, then you have to create a program to lower diabetes and give healthier meals to kids in schools and stuff like that. That is their number one responsibility. Number one. If they're not doing that, then they have forfeited their right to ask us as citizens to um, to give our consent to be governed by them.
Joe, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. Saw your question there. I think Trump had a tremendous opportunity to turn COVID into a win for himself. I think
he really did.
He could have handled it in a way. Now, granted, okay, the China ban, there were still Chinese people coming and going. There really wasn't a ban, but he did catch some of the Dems with their hands in their pockets. I'll give you that. But he could have turned COVID into a win if he would have just leaned into it instead of fucking fighting it every step of the way and putting people's lives in danger.
Well, he had a whole pandemic response. He had a whole pandemic response handed to him by.
Do you think he knew where it was when he heard about COVID?
Well, I know that he probably somebody knew where it was. Probably when they threw it out on the first day they came into office.
Yeah, fucking.
But
he had a whole team. Oh, he had a whole team.
He had a team in Wuhan, China, in 2018 that he called back. He had a pandemic office in the White House that he closed. Did we know that COVID exactly was coming? No, but we knew pandemics in general were coming, and pandemics are going to continue coming. I think that the idea that that Trump dropped the ball because he didn't have the resources in place or the ability to like do a mask mandate. Donald Trump could have tweeted, said everyone needs a mask, triple exclamation point, and that could have been because he likes to tweet crazy, right? He tweets tweet. He could have thrown one of those in there between the 20 tweets complaining about the crooked Mueller investigators and everything else he's tweeting about. And so I think it would have been very easy for him to lead, as you said, and he chose not to. He chose not to lead. He said, it is what it is. And Mark Meadows said, we're not going to get a handle on COVID. We're not even going to try.
Jason, no, I don't think those tips were used, and there was a couple hospitals that weren't used, but I mean, isn't it a good thing? People hold that up like it's some massive failure. Like they were just being careful and they slowed the spread before it got to that point. But that was then. I mean, a couple of states are near maximum, like at least 90% ICU capacity right now. So those ships in those hospitals, in fact, I think there's a hospital somewhere being built right now.
Joe wants to know where the PPE went. I'll tell you where it went. They shipped it to China. Mike Pompeo shipped it to China. Look it up. In March. I think in the most critical part of our pandemic response, he shipped it to China. Obama. And it turns out he has a secret bank account in China. And he pays more taxes to China than he does to the United States. I think that's interesting. I wonder if those two are related.
It's all, hey, we may never find out, or we may find out next week. And remember, guys, next week, 7 o'clock on election night, we will be doing a special broadcast as they're starting to bring in the live tallies as precincts start to shut down across the country.
They bragged about it. Here, I'll show you the tweet. Secretary Pompeo, we have coordinated February 7th, U.S. organizations to transport humanitarian relief to people in Wuhan. PPE and other medical supplies can help save lives in China and help protect people from coronavirus.
And then, like you said, he didn't use the national defense.
Makes me think about the fact that Donald Trump was talking to Bob Woodward on February 7th, saying, this is very dangerous, it's deadly stuff, and it's coming to America on the same day that they're sending PPE to China.
Well,
the very same day. Hey y'all, I'm gonna have to get up out of here. It's about my time, but very informative stuff. One final thought, pitch, idea: vote for whoever you want. Vote for whichever side you want. You want to vote and vote for one person and leave the whole ballot blank everywhere else. I encourage that highly as well. If you want to pull up and vote for nobody at all and just leave the ballot empty, go for it. We see, I think we tilt very democratic or leftist on this show, but it's not about that. Like our personal politics are our personal politics. We encourage more people to be involved. I would love to have 17 Trump supporters bashing me right now. We're all about political engagement, and we're here to listen to everyone's side. And the more people get involved, I think whatever side you want to be on, or you want to be on, you don't have to be a Democrat, you don't have to be a Republican, but the more people that are involved in the democratic process, I think is a net win to everyone, not just the Democrats or the Republicans. So with that, I'm gonna slide out. I'll let Rob and Rich, hold it down from here.
Holla at you later, bro. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, fucking next Tuesday we'll be going live, as I was saying. We'll start around 7 o'clock. It'll be a much different show than this. Live reaction and live streaming of basically a TV.
Yeah, come get stoned and watch the election unfold with us.
And eat some pizza.
Yeah, there might be pizza.
There'll definitely be pizza. But yeah. Get out there and vote if you haven't already.
Vote.
It's not hard to find where your local polling place is,
Vote.
and there's a good chance you are registered. It's
Vote.
easy to figure that out too. Whatever state you're in, you can just go online, put in your little fucking, usually driver's license number, and then your last four, your social, and they'll let you know. And then they'll let you know where your local polling place is in reference to your address that you're registered with.
And for the love of God, like, share, and subscribe.
Yes.
Please.
RobVillain.com streams live every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Go there. You'll hit the little link, the name of the episode. Hit that link. It'll take you straight to the YouTube. Like, subscribe to that. We're also on Facebook on numerous pages on there. Also, please vote like your life depended on it, because it just might.
Vote.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you guys Tuesday.
Thanks, guys. Peace.
Tuesday.